Alien Interview is a strange story that was published back in 2008, but is still little known to many, even UFOologists. A story that presented a collection of letters, official transcripts, classified as top secret by the U.S. Army Air Force, detailing personal notes from the Senior Sergeant of the Air Force Medical Department of Women's Army Corps, and one of the first individuals on scene of the now infamous Roswell incident of 1947, Matilda MacElroy. So today, here on Interstellar Happenings, we'll be discussing why, after 60 years, did MacElroy decide to come forth with these documents and her knowledge of what was waiting for her in the New Mexico desert and what she learned about the Earth, life, and the cosmos. It's 1945. World War II was nearing its end and the dawn of the Cold War had just begun, and the scientists of the Manhattan Project had made significant progress working to construct the first ever nuclear device, developing two different types of atom bombs. One a simple uranium design, the other a much more complex implosion device containing plutonium. The leaders of the time insisted this bomb would need to be tested before its use, and on July 16, 1945, just 2 hours west of Roswell, New Mexico, the first ever nuclear device was dropped.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. I suppose we all thought that, one way or another.
On a flat desert region near the U.S. Air Force Base near Alamogordo, known as the Trinity Site, fueling a rash of UFO sightings from New York to California, and the U.S. government set out to capture one of these flying objects that seemed to move at speeds unobtainable at the time.
I'm here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports,
creating possibly one of the most compelling and talked about UFO incidents of all time, the Roswell incident, that occurred during the summer of 1947 when the U.S. Army Air Force sent out a shocking press release that a crashed flying disc had been recovered near the ranch in Lincoln County, New Mexico, just 75 miles north of Roswell, stating, I quote, "The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and sheriff's office of Chavez County." End quote. A release that would lead to years of cover-ups, conflicting reports, and the everyday speculation it was a saucer, a Soviet spy craft, or the official government explanation at that time, a weather balloon, releasing photographs of Major Marcel posing with pieces of supposed debris as proof. But the government would change the story many times.
We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any agency of the United States.
And in 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report in which they conceded that the weather balloon story had been an elaborate ruse.
There was so much of it. It was scattered over such a vast area. We found a piece of metal about a foot and a half to 2 feet wide and about 2 or 3 feet long.
Say their whole names so we can make sure we get everything right.
Jesse Antoine Marcel.
And what happened? What happened after he woke you up?
Felt like you had nothing in your hands. It wasn't any thicker than the foil out of a pack of cigarettes.
He had something he wanted to show us. This apparently was some debris or something he brought in from the field at that time. And I understand he was on his way to the airbase to deliver this, but he felt that this was unusual enough that he wanted us to see it first before he delivered it to its proper destination.
The thing about that got me is that you couldn't even bend it, you couldn't dead it. Even with a sledgehammer would bounce off it.
The most unusual part of this whole thing is what was on the I-beam, on the inner surface of the I-beam. Because as you look at it head on, there appeared to be a type of writing on the mainframe itself. Well, in my first impression, this is Egyptian hieroglyphics,
But behind all this UFO mania of 1947 lies a much more uneasy explanation. It's here that we run into the unusual case of Matilda MacElroy. In 2007, the then 83-year-old MacElroy contacted Lawrence Spencer.
I cannot possibly tell you the personal hell of ethical irresolution and spiritual ambivalence I have endured since 1947. I do not want to keep playing the game of maybe I should have, maybe I shouldn't have, through the rest of eternity. Many men have been killed to extinguish the possibility of revealing the knowledge I have helped to withhold from society until now.
Many men have been killed.
Well, that's what she said.
Mm-hmm.
Only a small handful of people on Earth who have seen and heard what I had the burden of keeping secret for 60 years. All of those years, I thought that I had been entrusted with a great deal of confidence by the, quote, powers that be, unquote, in our government, although I have often felt that the power is greatly misguided to protect mankind from certain knowledge that not only do intelligent extraterrestrial life forms exist, but they have had and continue to have that they have and continue to aggressively monitor and invade the lives of everyone on Earth every day. Therefore, I think it is time has come for me to pass along my secret knowledge to someone who will understand it. I don't think it would be responsible of me to take the knowledge I have into my silent afterlife, beyond reach and recognition. I think there is a greater good to be served than protecting the vested interest for whom this information is considered a matter of national security, whatever that means, and is therefore justification for making it top secret. Also, I am 83 years old. I have decided to leave this body, which has outlasted its usefulness to me, using a painless method of self-administered euthanasia. Documents to your discretion to impart to the world in any form or manner you see fit. My only request is that you do so in a way that will not threaten your own life or well-being, if possible. If you were to incorporate these notes of my experiences into a work of fiction, such as a novel, the factual nature of the material could be easily dismissed or discredited by any agency for whom, quote, national security, unquote, is used as a personal shield against scrutiny and justice. In so doing, you can disavow any knowledge of their true origin and claim that it is a fictitious work of your own imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever said that, quote, truth is stranger than fiction, is right as rain. For most people, all of this will be unbelievable. Unfortunately, beliefs are not reliable criteria for reality.
She was the driver of a car that was taking military officer Sheridan Cavett to the crash site of an unidentified flying object, and she was specially sent as a trained, experienced military nurse. Cavett, who had his own discrepancies of the accounts of that day, ranging from not being in Roswell, New Mexico, or anywhere near it, to being in Roswell during the event, but not going out for any kind of debris recovery, and as going as far to say that he was there, he did go out for the recovery, and he was involved. But whatever Cavett's accounts of that day were, he took with him until his death. When Matilda and Cavett arrived in the New Mexico desert at the crash site, the woman saw the wreckage of an unusual metallic aircraft and the bodies of two unknown life forms. One had passed away and the other was alive and still conscious. Matilda also went on to describe Earl's appearance as a humanoid creature, whose body was the size of a small child, with a head disproportionately huge and a flexible skull, concave nose, deeply set large eyes, and black skin. However, this was not a real organic being, but rather a biomechanical avatar whose tissues were made up of synthetic material that could only be inhabited by a being of a higher order. When Matilda attempted to communicate with this being, she suddenly began to receive mental images from them, which she interpreted as an attempt at telepathic communication. When Matilda told Officer Cavett about her experience, he decided to continue this communication and assigned Matilda to the being, watching and communicating with it, making a full report of everything she learned. Matilda was even promoted in rank and her salary was increased. In the process of this further communication, Matilda learned that the surviving alien was a female and that her name was Earl. Earl, as they were known, told Matilda that her mission to Earth was expeditionary in nature, and she was both a military officer, pilot, and engineer. She told MacElroy that her base was called the Expeditionary Corps and is located in the asteroid belt. If you look at one of the most well-known objects in the asteroid belt, Ceres, the dwarf planet, there could be some evidence to back up this claim, with several bright surface features the size of a large city discovered on the dwarf planet by the Dawn spacecraft in 2015. These were spots later classified as salt deposits. Or could this be something a little different? Could this be another elaborate plot to cover up the reality? Could these bright spots really be the Expeditionary Corps Matilda mentioned? The question still remains. Matilda also went on to note that Earl had not given her any information regarding her language or location of her home world, because she was not sure of the military's intentions, and this made her refuse to disclose any classified information to humans. Earl also went into detail, calling their civilization very powerful, extremely ancient, and above all, the only priority was further advancement. When Matilda asked Earl how long she had been visiting Earth, she replied, long before humans appeared, going on to explain the Earth is a small planet on the edge of the galaxy, making the Earth very remote geographically from the more concentrated planetary civilizations that exist closer to the center of the galaxy. These facts made the land only suitable as a zoological site, botanical garden, or for its current use, a prison. Earl explained approximately 30,000 years ago, Earth began to be used as a wasteland and prison for alien beings who were considered criminals or nonconformists to the rule of what was known as the Old Empire. These beings were captured, trapped in electronic traps, and brought to Earth from various regions of the galaxy. Underground stations where these creatures were kept, or are still being kept, were created on Mars and on Earth in the Rwenzori Mountains, in Africa, the Pyrenees Mountains, and the steppes of Mongolia. Going on to say the only soul which managed to overcome this amnesia state and escape this prison planet in the history of Earth was the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. As far as my personal opinion, with many of these terms and concepts feeling directly borrowed from the work of L. Ron Hubbard, the science fiction author and the founder of the Church of Scientology, the story has to be scrutinized.
Here's something. Now we speak of a body. Here we speak of a body, and there is a body, and now there's an invisible thing, somewhat invisible, but nevertheless containing mass and space and energy, electrical potential and so forth, which surrounds this, which you call the mind. And in that mind is recorded every experience the person has ever had. They are recorded continuously and so on. And then within all that, centralized in all that, you have the spirit.
But do you believe this proves a hoax? Or could have Hubbard himself have had some form of contact with these aliens? Matilda spoke often of Earl, but then at some point the alien died, leaving its biomechanical body, and unfortunately the woman did not indicate the reasons for this or the circumstances, or did not know. So what do you believe? Hit me up in the comments below and let me know your thoughts on this subject, and do me a big favor, take a deep breath, relax, and hit that subscribe button for more interstellar happenings.